Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar. Actually, can I get a sound check? Maybe if somebody could just let me know that they could hear me, that would be great. This is something I don't do that often. I know Justin's usually with you during the month. And he told me some stories about going through half of a presentation on mute. So, okay, great. We're getting several people. My name is Kevin Amos. I'm the founder of Pine Financial. If you don't know, Pine Financial works hard to bring you these webinars each and every month. Sometimes we're going to do presentations, much like you're going to hear here tonight. Sometimes we bring in guest speakers or friends, someone who we know is successful to help us, deep dive into their careers. What did they do to become successful? Where's their business going? And we definitely want to get some advice from them to help us make more money. I want to start by saying thank you to all of you that joined us. I'm here in Denver and I'm looking outside and it's beautiful outside. So I know that there's lots of things you could be doing, but you chose to be here. So I'm going to do the absolute best I can to bring you a ton of value. Tonight, we're talking about negotiating the deal. This is one of the most important skills as a real estate investor, in my opinion. Outside of marketing, nothing will make you more money than negotiating the deal. We always hear you make your money when you buy, and that cannot be more true. And you buy by negotiating great deals. So we're going to talk about some strategies on how to do that. Mostly what we're talking about is negotiating directly with a seller. So if you're inside the home, sitting at the kitchen table and negotiating the deal. So I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself. Again, I said my name is Kevin Amos, the founder of Pine Financial. Pine Financial is a hard money lender in Colorado and Minnesota. I'm trying to get this slide to move and it's not moving. Oh, here we go. That should work. Minnesota, and we do some business in Wisconsin as well. When we got started back in 2008, we had one primary loan, and it's our flagship loan. We still do a bunch of these, and that's our 100% rehab loan. This is a fantastic loan for someone who's basically getting started in the business and don't have a lot of resources. Or what might surprise you, a lot of our borrowers are high credit scores, lots of money in the bank, but they use this loan to supplement their business. So let's say they have access to private money or they go out and get a bank loan and then they have another deal come up and their bank says no or they're out of private money, then they will come to us because we're a little bit more expensive, but it's better to pay that than to lose the deal. So the 100% rehab loan, we loan 100% of the purchase, 100% of the repairs, 100% of the closing costs, everything up to 70% of the value. So that's a great way to get in. Our other loan that's super popular right now that we're doing a lot of is a 90% acquisition loan. And that's really simple. We loan 90% of what you're paying to buy it. So for those of you that have money to do the rehab yourself and don't want the construction draw process and all of that, the 90% loan has been doing really well. It's a little cheaper, a lot easier. We don't do appraisals or asset verification and that kind of thing. We absolutely believe that we're only successful when our clients are. Our motto is we work together so you succeed. And the reason we do that is because we don't want this to be a transaction type business. Yes, we get paid when we do transactions. That's why everything we offer is free. We're not making money doing coaching and selling books and tapes and all of that. We make our money doing deals with you. So we want to work hard to make sure that you're successful so that you keep coming back to us over and over and over and we can all make more money. So we provide lots of free education. Check out our blog, pinefinancialgroup.com. And obviously these webinars that we do every month. That's a picture you're looking at on your screen of me and my girls. That was the daddy-daughter dance this year. That Maddie on the left and Lexi on the right. I got started in this business at a young age. I was 21 when I bought my first house. I was put it under contract when I was 20, turned 21, bought the house, moved into it, and I lived there for a couple of years, 2 years, and then moved out of it and bought another house. Now, during this time, it appreciated several $1,000s. I got a tenant in there. I was making a net $350 a month. This is just a little $100,000 house in Denver. I was learning about real estate by reading books, and I saw what I was doing with this one property, and I knew real estate is what I was going to use to get rich. This is the tool. This is the business that I want to get into to make me wealthy. So I started really focusing on it. Now, look, I was in college. I was working part-time, going to school full-time. So I was working evenings, weekends, and I didn't have a lot of credit or I didn't have a lot of cash. The only way that I could find to be really successful without cash and credit was to start talking to owners directly. If I could negotiate with them and get a steep discount, then I could bring in some private money to help me fund it, or I can get them to finance the property for me using some creative owner financing techniques. And so I really focused my skills on finding these deals, and then negotiating them. And I've taught several classes on how to find them. I don't teach this one as often. It's a bit more challenging to teach. And this is the first time I've ever done this through a computer. So we'll do the best we can here, but I think you're going to get a lot of value. So when I got going, my first couple of years, I just wanted to show you a few of the pictures. This is Gould, this is Kipling Street, that one before that was on 16th Street, this is Julian. These are different properties that I purchased in those first couple of years, negotiating directly with the owners of the houses. All right, so get out your pens. We're going to talk about a lot today. We're going to talk about the 5 steps to yes. This is a sales process. This is a sales training call. I know that scares people. I don't want to be in the sales process. I'm not a salesman, but look, you sell and you negotiate with everybody. You negotiate and sell with your kids at home to get them to eat dinner. But for this example, talking about business sales, there's a specific process we go through. You know, I think about, I'm a big sports guy. I love watching baseball and football and hockey and all of these things. And, you know, and I look back at some of the sports that I like to watch. So let's take basketball, for example. You know, you see the star players get fouled and they go up to the foul line, and then they have their little routine that they go through at the foul line. They dribble the ball, they shake out their hands, they shoot the shot, whatever the routine is, they do it over and over and over. And the reason the routine is the same over and over and over is because it works. If you have a routine that you could practice, you get so much more comfortable in the house, and then it works, just flat works. So we're going to talk about the process, and then we're going to go through simple strategies. There's 3 actually, to make you another $30,000 in less than 60 seconds. And we're going to go through some strategies, additional strategies that will work to help lower that price or get better terms on the transaction. Top negotiating mistakes. These are mistakes that I've made personally. And I know other people are making them too. And then finally, I'm going to finish up with the #1 absolute best way to get the best deals. Okay, before we get going too far, I'm looking at my screen here, trying to learn this GoToWebinar, and I got these questions screen pulled up, which several of you said, yes, you could hear me. So if we could use the question section and not the chat section to ask your questions. If I'm going into the presentation and I don't see it right away, I will definitely get back to it. But my goal and what I'm going to commit to you tonight is to answer every single question that you guys have before I go home. So definitely ask questions in the question section on the right side. I guess it'd probably be the right side of your screen. Okay, here we go. 5 steps to yes. #1, make a friend. This is pretty important because people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. Without first building the rapport, it's going to make it extremely difficult for them to want to do business with you. Okay, it's going to have to be just a great sweetheart deal for them to go ahead and move forward. But if they like you, they feel like you guys have something in common, they're going to be more likely to bend and to want to work together with you. And I should probably say this, you know, the goal of negotiating deals isn't necessarily to get the rock bottom price or the absolute best deal that you can. What I believe negotiation is moving the chips around, the different pieces that you have to negotiate, like a game, and trying to find a way that it's a win-win situation. If I can't help the person I'm negotiating with and I don't really feel it's a good fit, then I just flat tell them that it's not a good fit, and here's why. I think you could do better doing something else. So I want to express the importance of that in my personal business, that we're trying to find win-win situations here. So we're going to make a friend, and this is how you do it. You go through the phone call, and you get invited to the house. That's the goal of your phone scripts and returning seller phone calls. The goal is to get in the house. That's where you negotiate. It's not over the phone. You get in the house and you say, thanks for inviting me over. Do you mind showing me around? So that would be the question that you ask to get into this step of the sales process. Do you mind showing me around? So that might be something that you write down, you study that, and you use that when you go out to the house. So you say, do you mind showing me around? And they're gonna say one of two things. Either go ahead and go look around yourself, come back, I'll be in here, which happens maybe 10% of the time, or the other 90%, they're gonna say, sure, come on in, let's go through the house. Now, if the house is occupied, building this rapport is really easy because there's props inside the house that you could use. There's pictures on the wall, or something on TV that they're watching, or whatever it is that you could use and say, oh, what is this? What's that? Who's that in the photo? But I really like to use the acronym FORM, F-O-R-M. And I use this because it helps me remember how to make a friend. Like I do need that reminder sometimes. So a lot of you that have gone through sales training have heard this, so I won't take too much time, but I go through FORM, F-O-R-M. F stands for friends and family. So I definitely want to hit this. I want to talk about their friends. I want to talk about their family. And each time I ask my open-ended questions, I'm going to try to build little bridges of similarity. That's how you build the friendship. So my friends are, these are me and my friends doing whatever. Oh, I like to do that too. Which brings me to O, is occupation. And what do you do for work? What do you do for a living? People love to talk about what they do for a living. Actually, people love to talk about themselves. So as long as they're talking about themselves, that's going to be someone that likes you. So occupation. R is recreation. So this is where I was going. If you see a picture on the wall of someone fishing with their son, let's say. Oh, how old is your son? Oh, I have a son. I have a nephew that same age or close to that age. Oh, what do you guys do? You're fishing? Oh, what kind of fish do you like to catch? Oh, I like to do that too. Or my friend does that. He tells me how much fun that is. I should probably try that. So F, O, R, and then finally M, and this is taught several different ways. I've read it many ways in the different sales books that I've read. I like to think of M as message. So I go through my friends and family, my occupation, my recreation, before I ever talk about my message, which my message is I want to buy your house. Okay, so you just work your way through the house and you build a friend. The idea of the tour through the house is to make the friend not to necessarily look at the house. If the seller says, well, why don't you go ahead and look around and meet me back in here, which again happens maybe 10% of the time. Then your response to that is, well, I might have some questions about the house. I'd really like it if you just show me around. Would you mind? With that question, asking them, would they mind? They will more than likely show you around. If they don't, my guess is they're probably not really motivated, and maybe it's not the person that you should be meeting with in the first place. They somehow got through your phone script and your filters, and they're not motivated. With that said, you're already there, so you should still go through this process because it's great practice, and who knows, you might land the deal. But do what you can to get them to take you on the tour. I should also say this probably goes without being said, but everything I'm talking about tonight is based on my personal experience, my experience going into the houses and negotiating deals. And I got that experience by reading books and going to a mentorship program and studying tapes and listening to stuff in my car and then going out and trying it and practicing it. So I'm heavily influenced by certain coaches and mentors, but everything that I'm teaching is what I've done inside the houses and what has worked for me. So that does not necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody. I do encourage you to have some type of process. This one is probably pretty good, but it's some type of process that you practice and practice and practice, and then you could start refining it and making it your own as you go through it several times. Okay, so now here we are making a friend. We got to get into the next step. The next step is to get a commitment. This is, I should say this, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. This is probably the least important of the 5 steps. With that said, if you go through this step, which can be a bit uncomfortable, if you go through this step, it's going to help you a lot. You're going to get more deals, and you're going to be a lot less stress in your life, because what we're talking about here is getting them to commit to either a yes or a no. We're going to try to get rid of all of those maybes. So to get into this step, the question that I used there is, well, where's a good place for us to sit down and discuss this? Where is a good place for us to sit down and discuss this? What you're looking for there is them to take you to the place they're most comfortable in the house. As long as they're comfortable, we're reducing that fight or flight adrenaline. You know, everybody's born with the fight or flight syndrome, or whatever you call it. And what that is if anybody gets uncomfortable, and all humans are this way, if they get uncomfortable, they have two distinct reactions, and that's either to fight you or to run, get the heck out of there. So we're trying to keep that at bay as much as possible. And the first step to that after rapport is to get them in the most comfortable place for them in the house. So you have them show you, and then you ask them where you should sit. Let them tell you where to sit, and then they'll sit down. Okay, so now we're into the second step, getting a commitment. This is fairly easy. And what I want to do here is two parts: get the commitment to a yes or a no. And I want to make sure that they understand that I'm an investor and I'm here in their home to make money. They already know that. But if I tell them that, that just eases the situation, keeps that fight or flight syndrome out of there, the fight or flight adrenaline at bay. So I start by saying, Mr. Seller, I just want to make sure that you know and that you're comfortable that I'm an investor and I'm looking at your property, and I'm hoping that I could work out a deal with you where I make some profit. Are you okay with that? Of course, they're going to say yes, because they already know you're there to make money. They already know you're an investor because you disclosed that to them on the phone, or should have. And then you just say, well, you know, I'm going to come up with some creative ideas. There's we could talk about lots of different ways that we might be able to help you. There's lots of different ways we might be able to help you, but some of them might sound a little crazy to you. So if I give you an offer that you hate, or there's an idea that just absolutely does not work, are you okay telling me that? And of course, they're going to say yes. Say, fantastic. So I assume if you're okay telling me that you hate the idea, that you're also okay telling me if, yeah, this is a good fit, this will definitely solve my problem. Is that a true statement? Yes, it is. Okay, great, Mr. Seller. I'm the same. You know, I got to be very conscious of my time and your time. And I'm going to work really hard today to make a conservative profit and try to meet your needs. Now, if I can't meet your needs, I'm going to have to tell you that. Now, if I can meet your needs, I'm going to tell you that as well. And I promise to tell you, yes, I can meet them. No, I cannot meet your needs. I promise to tell you that here today. Can I expect the same courtesy in return? And the real key to that is, can I expect the same courtesy in return? Now, who is going to say no to that? So of course you get a yes. Now, if you want to, you could reiterate that. Okay, just to make sure we're clear, you're coming today to tell me, yes, you really like the idea, or no, you really don't. Is that what I understand? Yes. Okay, so now we go into the third step of the sales process, the needs analysis, the motivation step. So in a normal sales process, this would be more of a needs analysis. In dealing with motivated sellers, I like to call it more of the motivation step. And what we're doing here is twofold. We want to build motivation, help them realize how motivated they really are, almost like therapy. And two, we got to get all the information that we need to make them an offer. So an offer is not just as simple as a cash price, right? There's lots to a real estate transaction. So we need to know all the information in order to make them an offer that we can negotiate with. So motivation needs analysis. So we get into this step by saying, great, we've got our commitment. Mr. Seller, what were you hoping I could do for you today? What were you hoping I could do for you today? Of course, they're going to say 100% of the times, well, I was hoping you could buy my house. Fantastic. What else have you tried? Okay, now we're into the step. Now that we got them talking. This step should take up at least half of the time that you're in the house. The slower you go on this step, the more money you will make. So if you're in the house for an hour, let's say, 30 minutes of that hour should be right here. And what I'm trying to do is eliminate all of their other options. Now, one of their options could be they do absolutely nothing, and there's really nothing I could do to eliminate that except for make them a great offer that they can't refuse. But what are some of the other options that a motivated seller has instead of dealing with you, the real estate investor? I'm sure many of you on the call are also real estate agents, so you could think of a few things that they could do. So what I think of this as like a diagram, like there's 4 quadrants almost. And I try to work my way through the quadrants and eliminate all 4 other options. But what I want to do is I want them to eliminate the other options. So I'm going to try to guide this conversation to eliminate the other options so that their only option is to work with me. And there I am right there at the table with them. So I'll just go through the 4 different options that they have. First one is they could list it with a real estate agent or a realtor, right? They do have the option to list the property with a professional and sell it through the MLS. Okay, they also have the opportunity or the option to hire a professional to manage the property for them. So they could hire a property management company and have them rent the property out for them. Another option is they could sell the property by themselves, a FSBO, a for sale by owner. They don't want to pay an agent, or maybe they don't have enough equity to pay an agent, so they could potentially sell the property on their own. And then you probably guessed the 4th one. Yeah, they could rent the property on their own. So these are the 4 that we're eliminating. So Mr. Seller, what have you tried? What else have you tried? And they're going to go into whatever else it is that they tried. Well, we had it listed with a real estate agent for a while. Oh yeah, well, how did that go? Or I like to use what I call negative phrasing a lot. If I'm saying something opposite of what is true, they will correct me, and that gets them moving towards me. So if they say, this is an example of a negative phrase. So I've tried to sell the house with a real estate agent. Okay, and that worked out really well for you? Or I know it didn't work out really well for them because the house isn't sold. Right, but if I say, yeah, that worked out really well for you as a question, well, they're going to say, no, it didn't. And then they'll tell me why. So I'm getting them to eliminate the real estate agent for me. Same thing with rentals or whatever else they tried. Whatever they tried is the easy one to eliminate because it didn't work, or they would not be talking to you. So how do you eliminate the ones that they haven't tried yet? So let's say they tried to sell it for sale by owner and they weren't getting enough traffic and they weren't getting the offers. And you just eliminated for sale by owner. There's no way they're going to try for sale by owner again. We eliminate it. There's no way. It's a terrible way to do it. Well, have you thought about hiring a real estate agent or a realtor? I mean, I heard that they're not charging very much in commissions. And then see, I know you're going to hate me. There's probably some of you hanging up already if you're an agent. I went directly after the real estate commission. That's really the easiest way to eliminate realtors and agents. If you are a realtor or an agent, obviously you won't say that, right? You'll have to eliminate the for sale by owner. You might try to eliminate other agents because you're very savvy working in this neighborhood with this type of seller and this type of property. But if you're just a real estate investor like I was, I would use that to eliminate the agents. I could say something like, well, the good news is the agents that you're talking to probably guarantee that they're going to sell your house for you, right? That kind of thing. And then they'll come back to me, oh, no, they don't guarantee that. Here's how it works. And they'll explain to me why it works or why it does not work for them. So those are the types of language patterns that I will use to eliminate all 4 of their other options. And then I get into the financials here. I want to know, how far behind are you on your payment? When is the sale date? If you're on a foreclosure, how much time do we have? When are you looking to move? Oh, it was a job transfer. Oh, that's fantastic. You already have the new place to live. I mean, good thing is you could probably afford both payments for a little while if you had to. So there I am going after the amount of time that they have to sell the property. using a negative phrase. The good news is you can afford to keep making this payment, right? That's a great question to ask. Okay. Next is financials and your offer. So I put this together. If you didn't get too much into the financials, then you can get into it in this step. We'll talk a little bit more about there's different ways that you can get into the offer depending on what direction you're going to go with your offer. By the time you get through the needs analysis, you probably have at least some idea of what's going to work for them, whether it's going to be like a lease option type strategy, whether they need a little bit of money down, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 down, but they can carry the rest for you. Whatever that is, that's going to give you some direction on how to make your offer. But this is where we really need to get into the financials. So, what do you think your house is worth? What are other houses selling for in the area? How much do you think this rents for? How much do you owe? Tell me a little bit about the note. Is it adjustable rate? Do you have any balloon or maturity dates? So all of the financials. How far behind are you? A lot of the sellers that we're talking to are motivated because they're in financial trouble. I mean, they might be missing mortgage payments at this point. So that's pretty common, actually. So how far behind are you? What can we do to help you here? Do you think the bank will work with you? Have you tried to do like a payment plan, or like really dig into the financials? Now, by the time you get to this step, you've built so much rapport that they're going to share this information with you. And I didn't mention this, and this is probably obvious, but you're going to make a friend. That's definitely a step. You need to go through that step, but you're going to be continuing to build bridges of similarity or commonality throughout the entire sales process. So you're really ingraining the friendship and the rapport as you go through this process. So they will share all this financial information with you. So ask the questions with confidence. You don't need to be nervous about that. And then you get into the offer. We're going to actually get into a little bit more detail on how to negotiate that different offer. But I like to start, I think of it like a big funnel, right? Most of the offers I'll make is somewhat creative. I don't want to just say, hey, the cash price. Like I'm going to say, well, I'm going to pay you cash, but I'm going to pay you a little bit now, a little bit later. And I got to get the house fixed up first. And then once I sell it, I can give you a little bit more, or some type of offer where it's going to create a better deal for me and it's still going to get them what they want. So I'm going to start with this big funnel and see if they even like the idea. Now, I'm not going to give them the opportunity to reject me. I would love to ask you this if we were live, but how many of you would like to make offers and never get rejected? I mean, that's probably something that we all are interested in. No one likes rejection, come on. So the way you do that is a simple what if. That's the two questions that you use to never get rejected with your offers. So you're not committing to anything. Here we're thinking about this funnel. All I want to know is, will you fit into this funnel? What if, Mr. Seller, what if I'm able to get you, the $30,000, $35,000 that you're looking for to help you with your down payment on the new home. And then as soon as I get this house repaired and I get this on a market and sold, I get you, the rest of your $200,000. Is that something that you'd be open to, or I don't know, maybe you hate that idea? Or you can be more broad. What if I'm able to get you a little bit of money now and I get you a little bit closer to your full asking price if I get you the rest of it, a little bit further down the road? Is that something we should talk about, or maybe not? I don't know. You tell me. And so that way, and they say yes, and you can say, here's a help build motivation here. What about that? Is attractive. What about that works for you? Have them sell you on why it's going to work for them, and especially whenever you can help them or make it their idea, or have them feel like it's their idea, like you're working together. It's not just creating an offer for them. That's really fun to do, and it really works well. Okay, moving on. Ooh, question here. This is fantastic. Oh, thanks. Could this be provided in a script or form? Okay, so yes, we can provide this, Kathy, in a script. When I was early in my career, I was having a lot of success. So here I am, this kid, right? And I'm out there buying houses. I'm 20. People were like, how are you? You're 23 years old and you're out there buying a house or two every single month. I don't even understand this. And I was getting the question over and over. And I became pretty popular in the Denver online forums and at the I don't know if any of you remember CARI, the Colorado Association of Real Estate Investors. I'd go to those meetings and people would approach me and ask me and introduce me to their friends, and people were always asking me how do you do this? And oh, I'm an open book. Of course I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna do everything I can to help you. But it was becoming so much that I decided to write a book, and I wanted the book to be an autobiography of just basically what I did, how I got through it. Well, it turned into more of a how-to book, but there's a ton of stories, and I really go into detail about some of my mess ups and how I lost a lot of money and the different mistakes I made. And then in that book is also all my scripts and all my forms that I use. I tried to create that book where you could literally take the book, maybe have an attorney review the forms, but take that book and go out and buy a property. You don't need a lot of hand holding or coaching. So the phone scripts and how I found them, the exact strategies I used to find them. In fact, I limited to only 3 so you could focus. I believe focus is super important. And then I was selling that for 40 bucks online, and I was selling a bunch of them. And then I decided to publish it. So it went on Amazon. It went to #1. Pretty proud of that. And now it sells on Amazon for $8 in the Kindle version. So it's $8. I don't make a lot of money from it. But to answer your question, Kathy, all of that's in that book. I don't have like scripts and everything that I email out, but that's just 45dayinvestor.com. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Financials offer, we just went through that. Let's keep going here. Okay, so we get into the close. Actually, I need to get into, well, let me get into the close, and then I'm gonna go into specific strategies to make the deal a little bit better, or get you I'm really gonna focus on lowering the price, because I think most of you on the call are more interested in cash type offers, like big equity deals where you could flip them for a profit or keep them and cash flow them, that kind of thing. So it's a little different if I was going to teach more of a terms type of offer or terms type of negotiation, although we probably have time. I can go into some of that too. But I'm going to focus again on trying to lower the price. So the close is really simple the way I do it. This is a fantastic idea, don't you think? And I just kind of put it out there. I feel really good. I think this is a fantastic deal for us, don't you think? And then they'll likely say yes because we've already negotiated the deal together. And then you say, okay, so we like this deal. Does it make sense to go ahead and put this in writing? I'm going to put this down on paper. I like to say put it down on paper. It seems a little bit less like in writing. Ooh, people get scared. So should we go ahead and put this down on paper? Sure. That's when I go out to my car and grab my contracts or my agreements. I don't bring any of that into the house. I come in with absolutely nothing. I'm here to make a friend. I'm here to talk to you about your house. I'm here to try to help you, but I'm not intimidating with a suit and tie and my my briefcase or my little notepad to take notes. I don't believe in any of that. I think anything that you have in your hands could, I don't know, I guess it could be a little intimidating to someone that's in foreclosure. So I choose not to do that. So I go out to my car, bring it in, and then I go through the contract or the agreement with them. The idea here is I want them to participate as much as possible in filling out the form. So once you get a contract, you'll understand this, but it's just blanks that you fill in. So, oh, that looks like this first one. I think your name goes in this one. How do I spell that? So that'd be one way to do it, and then you could write it out. What I really like to do is bring in two agreements. They get one, I get one, and I just say, okay, well, it probably makes sense to have 2 copies of this agreement so that we each have a copy. So let's just work together and go through this. You complete one, I complete one, and then we'll just work together through it. Oh, what's today's date again? Oh, here's how you spell my name. And then so that's how I do it. And then when it gets to the very end, I just sign my name. I don't even say anything. I hand the agreement across the table and I say, I think you put your name right here, and I just point to it, and then I stop. And then I'll be silent for a little while. And if they don't just sign it immediately, then I'm going to start pulling back. I think if you start pulling back, it helps give them the nudge to come forward. So I might say something like, I noticed whatever. When was the last time your furnace was checked? I know it was kind of making a little noise when we walked by it. Or the roof is, how long has the roof been up there? Is it in pretty good shape? Oh, whatever the problems have you had with the house? And so then they'll likely, if you keep going on that, they're going to eventually sign that agreement for you. that's another good point. I know I keep thinking of things as I go, but I don't want to beat them up on their house. That is not making a friend. So if I notice things, I'm not going to mention it unless I need to in my offer. They know that things are broken in the house. They know likely the condition of their property. I don't need to tell them that. All it's going to do is hurt my rapport and my chances of getting a deal. Now, one of the strategies is to start showing them that stuff, but I'm not going to do that at first. I'm going to try to avoid that at all costs. All right, got a few more questions here. Oh yeah, they're coming in now. Okay, hold on guys, let's stop here and I'll answer these couple questions here. Okay, you have to use a realtor. Tammy says as a realtor, she has to use the approved forms. What type of contract do I use? So, we have a lot of discussion about whether you should be licensed as an investor or not. I think there's absolutely benefits and arguments for both. Some of my great friends decided to get their license. They wanted the opportunities at commissions. That's obviously the big one. Access to the MLS, and then you're held to a higher standard, which is a double-edged sword. I mean, if you're held to a higher standard, you could use that in your negotiation. Like, well, if some investors just came in your property, Mr. Seller, looking to buy it, and you're not sure if you want to sell it to them. Well, I'm a licensed agent or a licensed realtor in Colorado. Don't you want to be working with someone who's held to a bit of a higher standard? So I would use that as a tool to, I'm losing my train of thought here because these questions came in. I would use that as a tool to negotiate. With that said, you're held to a higher standard, you have to use approved forms and all of this. So in that case, yes, you would disclose that you're an agent, and then you would use the approved form that you're allowed to use. For me, I decided not to get a license because I was doing a lot more creative type transactions. I didn't want to be held to that higher standard. And I didn't need the commission because I was making my money flipping houses. So I just use a one-page form. It's you could fit it all on one legal size page, or you could do a 8.5 by 10 and do it on both sides, like a front and back. So you get it all on one page. I feel that's a little bit less intimidating. It doesn't take very long, and they're comfortable with it because they can understand it. So this says it's Charlotte. Yeah, so I logged in as Charlotte. I logged in as Charlotte because, actually, I don't know why I did that. So I'm not Charlotte, I'm Kevin, but I'm logged in as Charlotte, so it absolutely does say that. So sorry for the confusion there. It says you're interested in is sourcing. I'm having a hard time finding these properties. Yes, so I'll go into some detail. In fact, maybe I'll just do that right now. If you go to our blog, pinefinancialgroup.com, and just go to the blog, and then you search finding deals or marketing, those are some of the keywords I would use. I've written several articles and several posts on how to find these deals, what type of marketing works. To give you some example, I absolutely love direct mail. I love direct mail for a couple of reasons. First, you could really pinpoint your market. So I could talk to exactly who I want to talk to. It's pretty inexpensive, relatively, to have someone deliver your message for 55 cents or whatever that stamp is. That's not very expensive, but it does add up because you need to touch people a lot of times. You need to send them 5 to 7 pieces before they'll call you. So if you have a list of 1,000, that might be 5,000 to 7,000 pieces to get one call. And a typical success rate with direct mail is hovering around 2%. So it takes a lot to get it to work, but if you're very consistent and you have a good message and you're consistent, you have a good message and you're hitting the right market, you'll see more of a 6-ish, 7-ish% return on your direct mail campaigns. And that's over a 5 to 7 piece campaign. Okay, so that's a great way to do it. Some of the lists that I like to use are free and clear properties if I'm looking for big equity deals, or I really like the probate lists. I know people who market to probates wish I would stop saying that one, but that one works really well. I got the best deals I've ever had marketing to probate. Other things that have worked well for me is just direct contact, like knocking on doors or direct phone calls. If you're in the Denver area, and you could use a website called Renav, RENAV.com, and it provides all the foreclosure lists for you, and it's before the title companies get them. So you'll have a day or two advance notice of foreclosure lists before the title companies get them. And It does cost money. Now, if you want to get the foreclosure list from title companies, that's usually free, and that's going to be nationwide. You can get those lists for free. You're just a few days behind on those. And a lot of times those lists come with phone numbers and stuff, so you can call them or just go out and knock on the door. And then one thing that worked really well for me as well is some bandit signs. So I had a very systemic way of doing it, but I'd hang up signs in the neighborhood. Some people don't like those as well. They're called bandit signs for a reason. Okay, is it too late to start wholesaling in this market? No, it's never too late. Now it's more challenging now because the inventory is so low, and that's going to be true for all the markets that we work in, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Colorado. So it's a little bit more challenging to find good deals, but the advantage or the flip side to that is if you're able to find good deals, you could write your own paycheck. You can make as much money as you want because there's buyers out there for quality deals. In fact, right now I'm so busy with Pine Financial, and I'm doing some pretty large, well, I consider it larger real estate development deals. I don't have time to go out and meet with the sellers as much anymore. So I love buying from wholesalers. The last property I bought was just last month. I bought from a wholesaler. So there's definitely wholesalers active out there finding deals. Step-by-step instructions, specific techniques to knock thousands off the, okay, I haven't got to that yet. We're gonna do that. In fact, right next, my 3-step process to knock off 30 grand. I'll do that. In fact, hold on. I might be getting a lot more call. I wanna keep up on these questions the best I can so I don't miss any. So the website is pinefinancialgroup.com, and click on the blog section, and then you could search in the blog for, you can search inside the blog for articles on whatever, but the marketing and finding motivated sellers. How will real estate investing be affected during the recession? Let me get to that one later in case some people want to jump off the call a little bit early. I'm going to come back to what I think might happen to the market if there's a recession. Okay, so here's how you knock off $30,000 or more in less than 60 seconds. So when you actually get into the offer, let me start by this. In most sales and negotiation books and trainings you go through, you're going to hear about anchoring. There's low anchors and high anchors. So if I'm on the buy side, I want to get the absolute lowest price, right? So a potential strategy is to anchor low. So let's say I want to get a $200,000 house. I want to get a $200,000 house for, let's say, $180,000. So if my target's 180, then I might anchor really low at, like, let's say, I might be able to do 150, maybe a little bit more, as much as 160,000. And so even though I know I'll go higher than that, I anchored the conversation low, I set the expectation low, and I'm trying to knock them a little bit, get their attention, so that when they come at me with their number, they're not going to go quite as high. So that would be the strategy there. Oftentimes, the seller is going to do the same thing. They're going to want to anchor high because they know that you're going to try to beat them up. So they're going to start almost always, they're going to start high if you're negotiating directly at a price like we're talking about right here. Hopefully let's just stop there. If you're not talking about a price, which we're talking about right now, they're going to try to anchor high. I would not make my offer first. I would have them say the number first. So they come at you really high. It's a high anchor. We know that they're in fantasy land. Okay, we know they're not going to get that price. So the first strategy here is to get them out of the fantasy world and into reality. And I do that by asking them a simple question. What do you realistically expect to get? So my first question is, well, what were you hoping for? Like, what do you want for your house, right? What are you expecting? Or what are you hoping for would be the word I would use, hoping for. What are you hoping for? And they're going to give you a number, say 200,000. I want $200,000 for the house. Okay, so I'm going to be real slow here. This is when I slow way down, and I might have a little confused face. I'm going to say, okay, and what were you realistically expecting to get? And then I shut up. We've heard this 1,000 times. Don't talk. I've done this presentation one time before, and it was in our Success Summit. Actually, I did it twice. I did one in Minnesota and one in Denver. I did the same presentation. And I remember Denver specifically because it was a big crowd. It was like 250 people. And then there I am on stage, and I go through this little section, and I say, zip it, don't say anything. And then I just shut up. And I just stared out into the crowd. And I swear it might have only been 45 seconds or 60 seconds. And it was so visible and so obvious, the discomfort in the room. We human beings hate silence for some reason, especially if we're face-to-face looking at somebody. It's super uncomfortable. This might be the hardest step of anything we're talking about today. What'd you realistically expect to get? Now, they might come at you immediately with a new price, $190,000, or they might not say anything, or they might come back at, well, I really wanted $200,000. Any of those are possible. No matter what their answer is, I get a really confused face, and I just look at them, and I don't say anything. Now, this is a friend of mine. We've spent 45 minutes to an hour together. I know about their kids, about their occupation, what they like to do. I mean, I know them. They like me, and we're in this awkward silence, and I have a confused look on my face. More often than not, they are going to reach out to help me. They're going to come at a little bit lower price. Okay, when they come back at their lower price out of fantasy world, then I'm going to create a gap. So let's say they finally come down to 180 from the 200. And I say, okay, so you're looking for 160 to 180,000. Okay. And I just shake my head up and down like I agree. Yes. 160 to 180. The bigger the gap, the more room you have to play there. 150 to 180. Okay, I understand. That's good. And then they're gonna say, no, 180. Or they're gonna just say, yeah, I agree with you, and they're gonna agree with you. Now, if they agree with you, then what's the new price that you're starting your negotiation at? You haven't even started negotiating yet. What's the new price that you started at? If I say 160 to 180, and I shake up and down, I understand 160 to 180,000. The price we're starting the negotiation at is 160. Now, they might not budge a lot off of that, right? But now I just knocked off 40 grand. So what if they say, well, I really wanted 180. Okay, so like 170 to 180,000. Okay. Now I just shrink my gap, always using their number as the high, something else as the low, and then we move on directly into a new strategy right after I go through these three. So these are going to be the three that I'm going to use every single time if I'm really trying to attack their price. Okay, is there any questions on that? Okay, no. The only other question is the name of my book. The name of the book is 45 Day Investor. You can find it at 45dayinvestor.com. That's going to take you right to the Amazon. If you buy it and you like it, leave a review. If you don't like it, call me. Okay, so more strategies that work. After those three that I talked about, then I'm going to go right into one of these other strategies. So I'm just going to kind of go through these here with you. Let's see how we do on time here. Oh, we got to get going here. Okay, more strategies that work. A low anchor. We talked a little bit about anchoring. So if they say, well, I really need the 180,000, so I'll immediately go into this. I'll say 170, 180. Okay. If they don't agree with me, then I'm just going to move on. I'm going to keep the 170 to 180 gap and move directly into something else. If I decide to go this direction, this is a more in-your-face. This is a direct attack on their price. Okay, so I might say, well, gosh, I've been thinking about this as we're going through this. I think the best that I could do, gosh, maybe 160, maybe a little bit more. I mean, gosh, we're pretty far apart here. And I'd see what they say. So now I'm anchoring low, and then I can give myself the opportunity to come up a little bit from there. So that's when you would finally anchor. That's one strategy. Another one is focus on time to close. Okay, so 170 to 180. Okay, and now I know you're you mentioned that you're trying to get out of here fairly quickly. I mean, what's the best price you could do if if I can close in the next 2 weeks? I mean, so a little bit better. What's the best price you could do? Okay, give them multiple offers and make the cash offer the most attractive. Now, I've only used this strategy once, but it was extremely successful. I don't know why I never went back to it, but it worked really well. I don't have time to tell the whole story, but quickly, I met a guy named Chris. Chris was at the Cary meeting. He was a real estate investor, had a lot of experience. I met him. I was dealing with a motivated seller. This motivated seller was extremely motivated, but he needed cash to move to his new property. He had a lot of equity. The only thing I knew at this point in my career that was working for me was lease options. I haven't had a lot of success with the wholesaling, fixing, flipping, and negotiating big money deals. So I was trying to jam this square peg into this round hole, lease option, just pounding it. Well, he basically accepted my offer, but I left and I felt really bad. Like, this is not a good fit for him. So I had met Chris that week at the Cary meeting. So I called him. I said, is there any way you could help me with this? Him and I both went out to the property and we went through the whole needs analysis, and all I did was just watch as he worked. And his strategy was to talk about it, get to a price where the gentleman that we were negotiating with got to his lowest number, and then Chris came in a little bit lower as a cash price, okay? And he wrote that down, cash, $160,000. He says, or I could do $50,000 now, and I could do $125,000 in 12 months. Or he says, well, I could do 180, or a number that's a little bit higher. I've already lost track of my math. 180,000, I can do it all to you. Nothing now, I can do it all to you in, however long, like the lease option strategy, 4 or 5 years. And he just slid it across, and he's like, this is really the best I could do. And he slid the paper across the table, and then we all just were silent. And this gentleman got real uncomfortable, started scratching his face, rubbing his ear, looking up at Chris, looking up at me. Nobody said anything. It felt like eternity. And then he pointed to the first cash offer and says, I'd like to go with this one. Chris says, let's do it. Signed up the agreement. We walked out. He gave us like a big handshake. He was really happy, super excited. We left, went and got a drink, and Chris said we just made $30,000. And what ended up happening is we flipped that and made 34 grand. That was my first fix and flip. I got 17 of that. So this strategy does work. And then finally, if not, this is like my last resort here. If I feel like we're close on a deal, then I'll go through the numbers and I'm going to say, look, I can't get to your 180. If this house is all fixed up, we've talked about this, we think it's worth 260 grand, 270 grand, whatever the number is. But let's go through, if I hire a real estate agent, I'm gonna have to pay 6%. Then there's real estate concessions, normally 2-3% in concessions. And I explain to them what that is and how it, in this area, or what I've seen is it's common. So I'll get another 2 or 3% off the price. There's about a 1% cost to buy the title insurance and pay the closing fees. And then when I buy it from you, I'm gonna have closing costs, and I'm gonna have, my private money guy comes in and he's gonna want about this much. For me to even be interested, I have to make at least like 20,000. So I gotta take that off. And so here's the number that that I think I'm gonna be able to pay for your property. I mean, this is what your property can afford for me to pay. And we just walk through it. So any other investor that comes in here is gonna have the same formula. So I try to help open their eyes to what is really possible for me to help them and still make a profit. And then finally, if I'm not negotiating directly with them and I'm going to do an offer, I threw this in there to help with those of you buying properties out of the MLS. I try to use only a default contingency. Actually, the MLS is a terrible example of that, because in an MLS, you typically need earnest money. If you're dealing directly with them and you're going to leave them with an offer, let's say you guys did not come to terms, I will always try to leave them with some type of offer. So I would leave them with an offer and say, I don't have inspection contingencies. I don't have deadlines for appraisals and all of that, okay? The only thing is I have to close by 2 weeks or whatever. And then the only out I have is no out, right? The only contingency is if I default, I have to default on the contract. So there's no contingencies. The reason I use this one is because I don't use earnest money when I buy properties in most cases. It doesn't hardly ever come up when you're sitting there with a contract negotiating directly with an owner. Earnest money typically does not come up, so I just write 0 in there, or nothing at all. I'll just leave it blank. In fact, I don't even think contract has a earnest money line on it. So as long as they agree to it, then I have no risk, right? If I decide not to buy it, I'll call them and say, I'm not able to buy this. I'm sorry. This is why. Here's what we found. But that's a good way to not say, hey, we're going to drag this out with inspections and all of that. Okay, quick mistakes, top mistakes. There's 5 of these, I believe. First one is diving straight in. So what I'm talking about here is if you just go into the house and you go right into the deal. Now, I actually just negotiated a deal on a house I'm selling last week, or was it last week? Maybe last week or the week before. And it was an investor that bought it for me or is buying it from me. And he negotiated everything on the phone, and he didn't do anything to build rapport at all. He had no process. And I had a certain number in mind, and he paid me almost 20% higher than I was expecting or wanting to get for the property. And the reason for that is I forced him to come up with a number first, and then he just dove straight into the numbers. He went right after the numbers and started negotiating that way. So I highly recommend go through the sales process, build the rapport, do the commitment, do the financial analysis, and build the motivation. You want them to feel emotional in this process, and it makes them feel good. And making an offer, what I'm talking about here is actually giving them the number first. Now, in some cases, it does make sense to put out a number first. Okay? In that case, that's when you use the low anchor, right? In most cases, I'd say 9.5 out of 10 times, you do not want to make an offer first. You want they're selling the house, they should have a number in mind, right? What were you hoping you can get? And they'll likely tell you. You don't want to start with something that's even higher than they realistically expected to get. We talked a little bit about zip it, the most uncomfortable, profitable strategy in this entire presentation. Focusing on a price. So I know this is something that we all do. You just stay honed in on that price. But there's a lot of other things, the other chips that you can move around. You can maybe get them to carry some of it for you. You can get them to carry all of it for you. You could focus a lot more on the time that you can get them out of their bad situation and less on the price. Like, what if I get you out of here in a week? I mean, what is that? How would that feel? And I like to ask questions like that. How would it feel if I'm able to do this for you? And get them to tell me, yeah, that would really be great. So I try not to focus on the price at all, especially if they're hung up on a certain price. And I'll come back to other items that is causing them pain that I might be able to solve for them. And then finally, getting emotional. This is true with anything in the real estate business and business in general. This is really hard for me at times with my tenants when they have a bad situation happen and they can't pay the rent. It's hard not to get emotional. Look, I was listening to a CD on tape, an Audible, and they were talking about emotions and like more of a logical or rational self, and this is very true. Human beings are born to make decisions on emotion. It's the, what do they call it, the hunter-gatherer kind of thing. There's so much danger when back in the day that we just made decisions so quick. So we were born this way. So to be rational, to focus on your rational mind, takes effort. This is something you have to learn and practice. Now, if you're in the negotiation, it can get emotional, especially if they're sharing with you all the tough situations that they had. If you're dealing in probate, for example, my gosh, that's hard sometimes. And you got to just be sympathetic and listen to them and definitely try to help them, but you need to make it a good win for you as well. A good strategy to do this is patience. You got to slow the whole process down. I said it earlier, but the longer the sales process goes, the more money you're going to make. And part of the reason for that is you're going to get more and more rapport. The longer you're in there, the more they're going to want to work with you. And 2, the slower you move, the more rational your decisions are going to be. Okay, so learned, it's practiced, slow down, and then take a step back, take a breath. All right, is there any questions? Nope, I must be doing a fantastic job. Let's move on to the last slide here. You all are dying to know about the best way to get the best deals, I think, and this is no secret, actually. The number one best way to get the best deals is be reluctant. the person, the party with the most reluctance usually wins a negotiation. And a lot of that is to do with the emotions there. I cannot even tell you how many times I've walked from deals when I was so close to getting them inside the house just to have them call me a week or two later and accept my offer. I've made offers to people not in their house. So like I was buying properties out of state, and I'm saying, well, I'll try to do the best that I can to buy this. I'm buying a lot of properties. I'm only one guy. Try to create, what I'm doing is creating a little scarcity there. I can't buy everybody's house, but if you want to call me in the future, do that. But this is the best I could do. And it doesn't even happen half the time. It's less than half, okay? I'll be honest with you. It doesn't happen all the time. But you'd be surprised at how many times they come back to you. Now this happens, being reluctant works really well in dealing with car dealerships. I'm thinking of several stories now where I would go into a car dealership with the absolute intent to practice being reluctant. Like, I don't even want a car, okay? All I want to do is go in there and practice getting up and walking out. Like, let's negotiate this deal, and then, nope, not a good enough deal for me, I'm out. And just getting up and walking out and seeing how uncomfortable that makes the other party. So yeah, actually, that's a good way to practice. Go pretend to buy cars. All right, what questions do you all have for me? It's 6:30. Justin told me I'm supposed to be done at 6:30. So here we are. We could finish up, or you can go through some questions. Oh, I'll come back to this rescission one. I haven't forgot. Do you need a contractor to go with you during appointments if you're just starting out, or do you? Okay, that's a fantastic question. So he's asking. I think it's he asking if I take a contractor with me. Now, when you're just starting out, no. What you're going to do is you're going to do the absolute best you can to negotiate the best deal you can. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to fall on your face. You're going to tie up properties. When I say tie up a property, all I'm talking about is getting it under control or getting it under contract. You're going to tie up a bunch of properties that don't work out. But I want to be very respectful of my contractor's time. So the last thing I want to do is ask him to come to appointments with me for free, or go look at wholesale deals that I don't have control of for free and give me bids. So I always get it under contract, and I'm honest with the seller. Say, look, I need to bring my contractor in here to just give me some ideas of what it's going to take to fix this up. I'll get him in here as quickly as I can, and then I'll call you right after. And then I take my contractor in after I have a control. So I'm respecting his time. Like, look, if we get this to work, I'm buying it. And then that's how I will do it to get my bids. So hopefully that helps that. Sourcing, very quickly, what were your best strategies? Best strategy by far was direct mail to probate lists. You can get probate lists from any list broker. List Source is one, listsource.com, but that's not even the best one. I don't know what the best one is right now, but if you Google list broker, call around, you can see what they'll charge you. They can even put the mailing together for you. They can do everything. Thank you, Kevin. Oh, you're welcome. Can you present terms as an option when you're planning on wholesaling the property? Absolutely. This is not done nearly enough, Paul. I would be more than happy to look at any of your terms deals that you have and buy them from you. Okay, so and I used to do this too. I'd get a deal under contract for a lease option or subject to that I just really didn't want. Maybe it had a tad bit of a negative cash flow, but a bigger upside, and I was pretty broke, right? So I needed cash flow. So I would take something like that and I'd try to sell it to another investor for 5, 6, 7 grand. And I'd just flip that contract. So I'd wholesale a terms deal. So absolutely you could do that. And that's the last question until more come in. I'm going to come back to this one about the recession. I don't even know how to answer this. So let's see what I do here. How will real estate investing be affected during a recession? Okay, so I could probably talk all day about that. One opportunity that I see if there's a recession, with not counting the obvious one of more inventory, right? If there's more inventory, there's better prices, and especially if you're a buy and hold guy or gal, that's going to be a fantastic buying opportunity. So obviously that's probably goes without saying. But one thing that I do see that's going to happen is when there's a recession. Well, actually, this could be the opposite of what I'm about to say, but this could cause the recession. Let me clarify that. So when there's a recession, interest rates usually drop because the government's trying to create liquidity in the markets. They want money moving to try to boost the economy. So they'll drop rates, making it cheaper to borrow money. They do other things too, like inject capital and loosen guidelines on lending and all sorts of strategies that the government uses to boost the economy. Interest rates is one. Interest rates could also go up while we're still in a strong market to try to hedge against inflation, right? And we saw that coming, and now it's backed off a little bit from that. But if we start to see interest rates rising, then that's going to create more opportunities for owner carry type deals. If I can get into a property where they have good low interest rate financing, that's more attractive to me. So I could pay more for the house, and now I'm competing with retail buyers because I'm paying the same price, right? Just because I'm getting good terms, and I could profit that way. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. There's lots of different ways people invest, right? There's people invest fix and flip, people invest long-term holds, commercial, land, all kinds of stuff. If you're a buy and hold guy, a recession might hurt you a little bit on your current portfolio, but will create opportunities to buy. If you're a fix and flipper, it probably doesn't matter. Maybe it's a little bit easier to find properties, but a little bit harder to sell them. Fix and flippers typically buy and sell in the same market, whether it's good or bad. So it's almost like neutral. So I wouldn't worry too much about a recession if I were you, other than being prepared with the opportunities that you're going to find. How do you ID the comps so you know the value of them to make offers? So good question. I don't. Especially when I was getting started, I did not take the time to look at comps. Honestly, when I was out there buying houses, I was just going out there to practice. Like, I didn't think I was going to be so successful. So I didn't know anything about the house. But what I'll tell you is the people that you meet with do know about it, and they're going to explain it to you. Now, you're going to verify all this after you get it under a contract. You're going to have ways to get out without losing any money. So that gives you time to go home, check the title work, do your comps, do anything that you need to do in your diligence process. But I do that after I have the contract, the house under contract. I just want to get into that house because I want the practice. I want to be the best negotiator I can be. Okay, I still feel like I don't know where to start. Is it best to get a mentor, or what do you suggest? Brittany asked that. I know this is such a scary business when you're getting started. The beautiful thing about real estate, you guys, is it doesn't take a lot of money to get in, right? You can get in with absolutely no money. So that's the beauty of it, but it's freaking scary. I get it. There's a lot that can go wrong, but if you're not putting a lot of money into deals, then you don't really have anything to lose, right? You're losing nothing. You're losing whatever money you have into it. And if you're not putting money into it, there's not a lot of risk. So is it possible you get rejected? Yes. In fact, you will get rejected. People will tell you no. People will get upset at you if you're calling them, if you're knocking on their doors. All of that's happened, but that's no different than any other sales job. That's part of the deal here. The benefit, though, is that you get to create the life of your dreams. I don't know why I just went off on that tangent. So how do you get started? I'm not even answering your question. So I got started by reading books, and then I would take a book and I'd go out and try it. So as scary as it was, the book would say, okay, go talk to this seller, send out this direct mail campaign, and if someone calls you, here's a script to use, and then go talk to them. And so I just did what the book said. And then I ended up buying 2 properties based on books that I read alone. I got the forms online and did not have an attorney review them. I didn't do any of that. Yeah, I just telling you how I did it. Went out and bought 2 houses. And the author of the books that I read, I was obviously extremely attracted to. So I started to follow him around and go to his presentations, and then I ended up joining a mentorship program with him, and then I really started having success when I went to that mentorship program. So yeah, getting a mentor will work. I'll suggest this to you though. There's some local ones in every market has local mentors that charge a reasonable fee usually. I would lean towards that instead of one of the national guys. Someone that's in your market doing what you want to do is kind of the direction I would head. But the 45-day investor is not a bad way to start either. Okay, have you had many situations where you had to back out once your contractor looked at a property and found an issue? Okay, so as you are getting started, you're going to negotiate deals that are not any good. Okay, you're learning. You're probably not very good at this. So oh, hey, Katie. So you're gonna get deals that are not going to work. So maybe it's a contractor looking at it, or maybe you run your comps or you check your rent, and it's not going to rent for what you thought. That happens actually more often than it doesn't when you're getting started, because you didn't negotiate that good of a deal. So you just call the seller and then either back out or say, look, this is what I found, and then I'll try to renegotiate the deal after my diligence process. But yes, I will back out of deals if it doesn't work, and I'm very quick about it. I'll let them know within 3 or 4 days usually if it's going to be a one that I want to stick with or not. Book's name again is 45 Day Investor. It's at 45dayinvestor.com. Thank you, Katie. That was so kind. Starting an LLC or S corporation before beginning. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of buzz around asset protection, starting your companies, and you can spend a bunch of money and go out and do that. My typical response is I wouldn't until you start doing transactions. I would focus my energy more on falling. You're gonna fall. You're gonna fail. So I would try to go out and do that as quickly as possible. Meaning, do your marketing, go out and meet with sellers, make your mistakes. Once you start having a little bit of success, then I would focus on more of the business structure, creating systems, and trying to scale the business a little bit. That would be just how I do it. Now, if an attorney heard me say that, they would say that I'm crazy. They would say that you should go out and spend a bunch of money and get your LLC and all that set up. My fear is one, that you don't like the business and you spend all this money, you don't even like it. Okay, that's a true reality for some people. But you're trying to protect assets, and if you're getting going, you might not have a lot of assets to protect. So why would you pay to protect something you don't have? So I don't know. My process would be to go out and start making money and getting good, and then focus on some of the other stuff. Focus on making money. Yes. Okay, what else we got? I talked really fast, didn't I? All right, how do I even know how many of you are still left on the call? Oh, wait, cool. There's a lot of you still on the call. So that's the last question. If you guys have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. I'll stay here as I promised, as long as it takes to answer all of your questions. If you don't have any other questions, do you have the book's names? So the book again is 45dayinvestor.com. I wonder if I could even put that on here. Let me see. 45dayinvestor. Oops. 45dayinvestor.com. Did that work? No, it won't let me do that. That's weird. Okay, 45dayinvestor.com. Can I listen to the webinar again? Yeah, in fact, I would strongly encourage you to do that, because when you're talking about negotiating, we're talking about specific language patterns, and I'm just barely scratching the surface here, right? But oh, wait, maybe the 45-day investor answer did come up. That's cool. Learning and hearing those language patterns over and over and over is kind of what it takes. So I would say, yes, listen to it again. This will be posted on our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, please do that. YouTube, just search Pine Financial. We're putting out a video every single week, pretty short, 5-6 minute kind of thing with a great tip, how to find deals, negotiate them, that kind of thing. We just talked about LLCs and S corporations, so there we talk about that as well. So go to YouTube, subscribe, and then you'll be able to listen to this again. Oh, the books that I read when I started. I'm so sorry, I misunderstood you. Yeah, so buying, let me see, I'm in my office right now. Let me just see if I can find it on my bookshelf. Ooh, here's one of them that really helped me. Let me grab, if I can find this other one. Oh, shoot, I can't find the very first one. Okay, but it was by, this one's called Making Big Money Investing in Real Estate Without Tenants, Banks, or Rehabs. And it's by Peter Conti, Peterconti. Peter is the one that had a huge influence on me. And it was his book that gave me the confidence to go out and start talking to people, and that's what I did. I can't find the other one. It's like multiple streams of income buying real estate or something like that. Same author, Peter Conti. And then I would honestly, I would digest anything that I could get my hands on. So I was reading constantly. How do we re-listen to the webinar? You re-listen to it by going to our YouTube channel and subscribing to it. When you started, okay, hopefully I answered that. When I started, it was the Peter Conti books. Sorry about the confusion with there. Although 45 Day Investor is a great book. Pine Financial. Yep, that's right. P-I-N-E Financial. How to create multiple streams of income. Yep, you got it, Zach. Peter Conti and David Finkel. That's right. Those are the guys that I was heavily influenced by. So shout out to them, although I have no idea what they're doing anymore. All right, great webinar. Thank you, Carol. At the conference. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Zach, but you do have the property, or I'm sorry, you do have the book title and authors correct. Oh, you grabbed my book. Oh, cool. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Zach. All right, anything else? I feel like Justin probably has some cool closing that he does every month, but I have no idea what he does. So I'm going to close with this. I really appreciate all of you. There's actually quite a few of you still left on this. This is fantastic. Are there any other books? Oh, there's more questions coming in. Any other books you would recommend getting started? I'm very interested in sub-2 deals. What do you do for sub-2 deals? So, yeah, my leasing agent's borrowing my sub-2 program that I really used. Although Peter Conti has some pretty good stuff on sub-2 as well. The Bill Bronchek, he's an attorney here in Colorado. Love him. I've learned a lot from him. I've done a lot of his programs, read a lot of his books. I think it was his forms that I was actually using when I started doing subject twos. So I would Google Bill Bronchek, subject 2. Peter Conti has some good stuff on subject 2. And then I can't think of the name of that other one, but if you email me, kevin@pinefinancialgroup.com, I'll get that other one that I really enjoyed and I was using, and I'll get that to you. Email kevin@pinefinancialgroup.com. Maybe I'll just put that in here. Did that work? I don't know if you can actually see what I'm typing or not, but kevin@pinefinancialgroup.com. Much appreciated. Thank you, Katie. No, Wendy, I have no influence from Wendy Patton. I have not heard great things, so I did not ever buy her course, but if you want me to say something nice about her, tell me and I will. Oh, Danny, thanks. Says our blog is good. So if you're not listening, not going to the blog, then you should do that. You know what? I don't even know if you guys can read all of this that I could read or not. So maybe I'm annoying you by reading it all. Book is on Kindle. Yep. You can get the Kindle version. Now I'm not, as you can see when I talk, I kind of stutter sometimes and all that. So I didn't read the book that I wrote. So I hired someone that was much better at it. He's fantastic. So he'll read that on Audible for you if you want to listen to the book instead of read it. And if you get the Audible book on Amazon, then you will get a separate package that has all the scripts and forms and everything in a separate PDF packet. Otherwise, the book is good because it has all the graphics and everything you can look at. Would I do another webinar offering terms in negotiation? Yeah, I could do that. I don't know when that's going to be. I'm not actually sure how. Justin handles all of this, and he asked for me to help him. He had to be home with his kiddos tonight, so I stepped in. So I'm not sure what the schedule and everything is with this, but yeah, I could make an attempt to do that. Or maybe I could do it at one of our success summits or something. So Paul, keep on the lookout for that. I'll try to get that in there. Would you consider doing another webinar? Oh, I just read that one. Okay, I think her book on subject twos and lease options is really, so okay, here's Katie talking about Wendy's book. She really likes Wendy Patton. We have different experiences with Bill, so she does not like Bill, apparently. That's okay, I know some people don't. His education's good though, I like him. Okay, all right. I guess I'll just sit here for just another second. Kind of feels like we're talking, Katie. I hope you're doing well, if you can still hear me. All right, with that, I think we're all wrapped up with the questions. I want to say thank you for all of you that are still on. There's still quite a few of you on. That's crazy. This is so awesome. I really appreciate every one of you that joined the webinar. We're gonna put this up on the YouTube channel again. So if you haven't subscribed, I think it looks good to have subscribers. It adds some credibility to the station or the channel. Station's not really a station. It adds credibility to the channel. And we're starting to get some calls and some leads and do some business from people off of the YouTube. So it would help us if you really enjoyed, or if you enjoyed what you got tonight, if you think there's some value on the YouTube channel, if you could just do me a favor and hit subscribe to that. You can also go over to our Facebook page. We post videos on Facebook as well. It's not as good, I don't think, on Facebook, but you could like our Facebook page. And I'm not sure how the feed works, but sometimes you'll be notified if there's a video or something. But YouTube for sure. Okay, and with that, I think I'm off. Thank you. Getting some thank yous here. All right, we ran quite a bit over, and some of you guys stuck with me. Thank you so much. Let us know at Pine Financial if there's anything we could do to help you and to your success.